Hello there and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, don't forget to introduce yourself in the comments. I'm Julie from Julie Davis Flower Workshops and Flower Start, the online flower arranging classes. Today I'm going to be arranging a delivery box full of flowers, so let's have a look and see what's inside. There's loads of useful advice inside the box. It says my mantra, 5 steps to the perfect arrangement: trim, pour, style, refresh and enjoy. That sounds like great advice to me. And inside the box as well, there's some more information. So my box contains gladioli, oriental lily, soft ruscus, more gladioli and alliums. There's a little picture of what the finished arrangement will look like. And also on the back it says flower care info. Gladioli flowers from the bottom up on both sides of the stem, so you get a double treat. Care tip: you can carefully remove the lower flowers as they start to turn, go over or die, giving more power to the top of your flower. And remember, they get very thirsty. Don't forget to change your water every few days, especially in the heat. So in the box I undo the string, open up the brown wrapping, and I've got 2 stems of the oriental lily, 5 of the bullet alliums, so these are really long straight stems, 2 stems of soft ruscus, which are about an arm length long, 3 stems actually, and my gladioli. So it looks like I have got 2 different varieties, 3 of the red. They haven't opened yet. That's the beauty of having the flowers delivered. Number 1, they have to be quite small to fit in the box, so you know they're going to be in bud form, and I'll get the enjoyment over the next few days as they start to open and develop. And then 2 of the black. These are an amazing dark colour, crimson practically. And then in the box there's 2 bits of tissue paper wadded up to protect the flowers from moving around in the box, and 2 sachets of flower foods. So I'll use one of those now and one of them next week. So I've chosen a grey vase to work with today. It's a modern classic really. I got it from IKEA, cost me about £10. It's medium height, medium width, with an opening that's about medium sized. What you want to make sure is whatever vase you choose, don't choose one with too big an opening, too big a mouth, because you find your flowers will flop and slop all over the place, and not one too small either, otherwise you won't be able to get your flowers in there. I filled it up really high with water because it is a really warm day, and because my vase isn't a glass, I can't see through it, so I can't tell visually by looking when the water needs replenishing. So I'll have to slip my hand inside the vase and wiggle my fingers, and if I can't feel any cold water on my fingers, it needs topping up again. So I'll use my flower food, cut off the edge, sprinkle it in and give it a bit of a zhuzh around. These flowers have been out of water for quite some time, so the advice always is to recut the stems. So what I'm going to do here is be quite generous with the amount I recut, because I really want to make sure I'm getting back to the fleshy part of the stem. So cut at an angle. Three flowers make a triangle, so I'm going to arrange them in the vase a little bit like a mini wigwam, and this is exactly what Freddie advises you to do. So it gives you a nice supporting structure to help build your flower arrangement up. Next I will add in my oriental lilies. So again, recut the stems, and you need to pull off any leaves that are going to sit inside the vase. You don't want them falling off in the water, otherwise they will start to rot. Your water will smell, and the bacteria it attracts will shorten the life of your flowers. So one in one side and one in the other. So you can see how that's really starting to fill out. The flowers aren't open yet, but over the next couple of days I'll be able to see them burst open their buds and slowly open. And then of course, as they start to die off, I need to trim off the flower heads, the individual blooms, and then enjoy the other buds opening. You may want to pick off the pollen as well so it doesn't stain you or your furniture, and of course always keep lilies away from cats. So the soft ruscus next. This has got a lovely arching quality, so I'll recut the stems, measure up as well to see how much of that greenery I need to get rid of at the side. I can't pull this off, so I'm chopping it back with my scissors. That's probably about right. Cut the stems. And I'm going to place them in between the gladioli. I've got 3 gladioli and 3 pieces of the ruscus. And I'm left with my two tall, dark gladioli. I'm slightly concerned that these lower buds are going to be inside my vase. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to pinch them off. Recut the stems and place those into the middle of the vase. And you can see how they're practically standing upright. And then the alliums in the end, I can dot those around, so recut all the stems together. And just where I see a gap, I can place one in. So this is the joy of arranging flowers at home, that you do see them right from beginning to end. And every time you change the water, you can change the style of the arrangement. So what do you think? Do you like the way it looks? It's a bit early to tell because the flowers aren't opened, but actually I'm going to take this arrangement apart and I'm going to vary the height a little bit of all the flowers. I don't want to end up with all my lilies opening up in a band across the middle of my arrangement, and the same with all my gladioli, just the flash of colour running horizontally through the design. So I'm going to take my flowers out, rearrange them in the same order, but I'm going to vary the stems in length. So where I've got 3 gladiola, I'll have 1 shorter, 1 medium and 1 long one. Not really short, but just vary the amount I cut off the ends. So I've emptied my vase and I'm all ready to go again. So exactly the same process. Of course you can arrange your flowers in any way you want, but I do like doing what Freddie does. Take one flower and work with it, one flower and work with it, rather than just doing a hodgepodge as you go along. So I've already recut these stems to let the fresh water go up into the stem and keep the flowers lasting for as long as possible. But now I'm going to arrange them or hold them in my hand according to the height. So I just want a little bit of variation in the height, just to step them down a bit. So I've got longest, middle and shortest, so it's not a huge difference. And then I'll trim them off at the end. So again, I'll put those in that triangle shape, making a wigwam of flowers. Can you see how the stem ends are starting to nod over? That's a classic in a gladioli. And if you don't like that, you can snap it off and then you'll end up with a very straight piece. Personally, I like the way the flowers move a bit. And then the lilies, glorious, aren't they? Really, really huge. But again, hold them both up. Take one a bit higher, have one a bit lower. And because I've made this stem shorter, I'll probably need to take a few more of the leaves off. And what I'm going to do, because this vase is going to be sitting against a wall, I want to make sure my flowers actually show off from the front. That's another advantage of cutting your flowers down slightly shorter, is you actually see the flowers. And you can see that as I've angled them in, when those open, you're really going to get an eyeful at the bottom of the vase. And this flower, I'm going to have it slightly further back, just to create a bit of depth into the arrangement. And then my greens, these are really long and I need to decide whether they're too long for the arrangement. Ideally though, I'd like to keep them as long as possible to begin with and then cut them down a bit shorter every time I change the water. You see how tall that one is? Well, when I come to rearrange the flowers next week, I'm going to make sure that stem lies much lower in my vase, and I'll do that by cutting it down. At the moment, we're going to embrace the long because these other flowers will open and I don't want the arrangement to look too short with greenery at the bottom. So one to one side, one to the other. And then, because this is going up against a wall, I'm going to have the last piece pointing out at the front of the vase. And I think I will come a little bit shorter. I'm going to take about 10 centimetres off there and trim off the bottom side shoots and slide this underneath the lily. Then got my 2 dark gladioli. Now the problem with arranging flowers in twos is particularly if they're round flowers like a gerbera, you end up with 2 eyes or ears or 2 headlights shining out of your arrangement. And that's another reason why if you're working with twos, just to make one slightly longer than the other, by just pushing them up in your hand, and you can see the difference in height here, and then cut them level at the bottom. And again, I think I need to take a bottom flower off there. So that was the shorter one. I'm going to put that towards the front, but in the middle, feeling my way down, and then slightly further towards the back and slightly taller. And then lastly, my bullet alliums, I can hold them in my hand. I'm going to have the smallest, there's not much different in size, but this flower head's definitely smaller. And I can have it going from the tallest and smallest flower down a line. And that's a good rule to work with. Your smallest flowers are the longest ones at the edges and gradually going shorter. So I can recut those all in one go. And add in my smallest buds at the bottom and work my way up, doing sort of a zigzag through the middle. And then one last thing I always do before I put my flowers in the final resting place is tidy up, walk away, and then come back with fresh eyes to see whether anything needs adjusting. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to check back next time with part 2 when I show you how I'm going to adapt my arrangement when I change my water and recut the stems and get them to last as long as I possibly can.